Hello crafty people and welcome. Today I'm going to try and be a little bit ingenious. So sometimes when I'm here on the island and there's something that I want, I just can't get it. It's not here. No matter how much money I've got, there's no such thing. So today I am going to try and make a jewellery stand, specifically a stand for displaying some of my pendants, out of some plastic plumbing pipe, some little bits of ends and fittings there, and a small piece of wood. So we will see how that goes. In order to make it, I've got a few ideas, a simple stand just like a tea, and then others which also have spaces for some smaller things or some bracelets or something. So let's have a look at the materials. This one is a 1/2 inch pipe. Now it was really interesting. Look at me like a school teacher there. Now it was really interesting because I went to the DIY store and I picked up this and I thought, oh, that looks about right, and it says on there a 1/2 inch. But when I went to buy fittings and got 1/2 inch fittings, they didn't fit the pipe. They were way too big. And apparently there are two sizes of 1/2 inch pipe and neither of them are actually 1/2 inch. So beware of that. Make sure that you buy your pipe and your fittings at the same time and make sure that they actually fit. It makes no sense to me. Apparently the gentleman was explaining it's a man thing. Okay. So get yourself some plastic pipe. This is kind of, I suppose, as thick as my finger, and it was really easy to cut. You'll need a hacksaw, but you can cut this really easily. You don't need a man to do it. Also, you will need some of these T brackets. I've got 3 of those, and depending on what configuration you want, you will need 1, 2, 3 or however many. And then some of these little end caps. These fit on the end just there to give it a nice look on the finished part. Okay, so first thing to do is to determine how tall you want it to be. So I kind of held my pendants up and I thought, right, I want it to, once it's ready to hang about there, so that's where I need my crossbar to be. So I need a piece, and I cut a piece randomly. Let's take the stand out of the way for now because that's something extra. So I cut it randomly about that and thought, okay, that's good. Now remember, if you're going to cut your pipe, I mean, for one, it's not expensive. If you make a mistake, it's no problem. But you can always make things shorter, but you can't make them taller unless you cut another piece. So if you're in doubt, make it a little bit longer and then you can cut it down afterwards. So this is going to be the eventual height. Then I took a T piece, pop that on the top, and the good news is, because you're not working with water, you don't need it to be waterproof, therefore you don't really need to use any glue. There's such a good fit that you can just pop it on and it stays. Then I needed a couple of pieces for the side, so I cut a couple of pieces which are, oh, they're pretty close actually. So I've got a couple of pieces. I'm thinking these might be a little bit long for now, but long is better than shorter. So to make them look neat on the ends where we have the sawn part, stick on one of these nice end caps. I will do that with each of my pieces. And the good news is, even if you don't cut these kind of square, if you are a little bit off with your sawn, you cut them a little bit not square, that's fine because the end cap is going to hide all of that. Those go in to your T, and there we already have the makings of our pendant stand. It's a little bit twisted. Anyway, it'll work. There we go, that works perfectly. Now, of course, we need something to stand it in, and I found one of these. Because I don't have any facilities to make a nice cut in some wood, I found this at the DIY store. This was actually in the section where they do mouldings for doors. And you know, around the top of a door jamb is intended to be like the corner at the top where the pieces of wood come out. So it's like a decorative cornicing piece for wood. And actually it was fully wood, it didn't have a hole in it, but I found a drill bit which pretty much matched the diameter of my pipe, and because this one had a lovely concentric circle shape in it, I was able to drill right through the center. But if you just have a plain piece of wood, and of course you can cut a piece of wood if you need it to any size that you like, then just draw a couple of lines, find the center, and then you can drill through there. And then that sits in there. It's a little bit loose because my drill bit wasn't quite exactly the right size, but anything on here isn't really heavy, so I don't think it's a problem. And it would be great if you were traveling. So if you're going to craft shows and fairs, then you could take something like this and you can just take it apart and have it flat, but if you want to, you can also glue it in place with a little bit of hot glue or some other kind of glue, and that's that. And that could just be as simple as it is to hang up a couple of bunch of pendants, and you can get a whole ton of them on here. But of course, if you're going to put really heavy things, then you might want to consider having a slightly larger piece of wood there. Then I thought, okay, so that's the first idea, but what if I wanted to add more? What if, for example, I wanted to add some pendants up here and then have another one that comes out shorter, perhaps here, that you can put shorter pieces on, like bracelets, and that is going to require some extra. So I'm going to now go and cut myself an extra little bit of pipe, and we'll have a look at some other configurations. We interrupt. Okay, my pipes are cut, so here's our original configuration, which is just for pendants. It's taller. And now if I take this one away, put in a shorter one, and then what I'm going to do is build up something in the middle. So I can put another T with a shorter piece with an end cap on again. Will go in there. And then I've just got a tiny, tiny piece, which I can use as a joiner. It's a tiny piece. Put between the two T's, so that fits those two together. Another piece, whoop, with an end on, like this. Then another piece. Push them all together, and there we are again. So now I have a completely different configuration. And of course everything here is movable, because these things aren't glued, they all can spin. So if you want things at different angles, you can absolutely do that. So if you want pendants here, and then let's do it something like that. So this makes a nice kind of 360 display. You've got a couple of areas here, front and back, where you can have longer items for your pendants, and then some smaller ones here where if you have some earrings on a card or bracelets or something, those can go there, and you can get an awful lot of stuff in just a small amount of desk space. And of course, remember, you can always twist it about, change it, and then, you know, if all of your bracelets sell out or half your bracelets sell out, you can just take this apart and reconfigure it on the go instead of having lots of different stands. And at the end of the day, it all just pulls apart and fits in a little bag or puts, you know, somewhere nice and flat, and it's really easy. However, of course, at the moment it looks like a bunch of plumbing pipes, and I want to change that. So I'm going to paint it, and I think the easiest way is going to be to use a spray paint. This one is just a regular black chalkboard paint, and black I think looks kind of cool for jewellery displays because it doesn't distract from your actual jewellery. Now, depending on what kind of spray you've got and what kind of products you're using, you might want to use a primer first. So in that case, get yourself a spray primer and prime it first, allow that to dry, and then go for the black. So I'm going to give mine a little bit of a paint job, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. So here is my piece now, sprayed up and finished. I think it looks pretty good. You can probably tell if you look at it that it's made of plumbing supplies, but once it's covered in jewellery, I honestly don't think that anyone would notice. So I'm really happy with this. I think it's absolutely perfect. So I appreciate that this has been a really quick run through, and probably you're thinking, yeah, but how long should I make my pipes? So what I'm going to do now is take it all apart, and if you hang on a little bit longer, I'm going to measure all of my pieces with you and show you exactly what measurements I used, more or less, so that if you want to, you can make something the same. Okay, so I've got my pieces all taken apart. Let's start with the wooden block that I used. This wooden block is just under 4 inches. I think it's kind of on the small side, and if you're going to put a lot of heavy things or make your stand quite big, you might want a larger piece, but this was all I could find that kind of worked in my DIY store, so I've gone with that. So 4 inches about for that. Now if you're going to make the tea stand, just a very simple one, the one that goes like this, whoops, I am hanging 18-inch pendants. And obviously if your pendants are longer, you need to make it taller. If they're shorter, you can afford to knock a couple of inches off. This one is just a fraction under 12.5 inches, and that would be the piece that goes like that. And then for my T-bar, obviously got my T that goes on the top, and then the pieces that make up the arms that go across the top. I've cut those at just a little bit under 6 inches. And again, you know, you cut them to the kind of size that's going to suit what you're hanging on them. So I've also done a quick and dirty spray job with mine. I actually kept my pieces assembled and sprayed it. So when you look at them, you can see that they've got little clear bits on the end that haven't been sprayed. So you can either do the quick and dirty version, assuming it's going to be kept together, or if you prefer, you know, you can take them apart and spray them individually and then put it back together afterwards. So that's this one, the eventual height. Let's have a look. Total height, including the stand right up to the top, is just a bit over 13 inches, and from left to right, again, just over 13 inches. So it forms, quite by coincidence, it forms a kind of square. Okay, so that is that one. So it's quite a firm fit in there, but I think I'm still going to put a little bit of glue in there anyway. Okay, so now for the one that had all the little bits and pieces coming out. The first part, the base, that one is 5 inches. So that one fitted in there. And then I have the plumbing piece on top. Then we need a little piece to make a pivot for, if you're going to have two pieces, you'll need a little pivot to join them. And that one is 1 inch. That goes on there. Then another T, like this one. Then the top is around 3.5 inches. Let's pop that on there. And of course then we have our T-bar that we looked at before. And that goes straight on. Then these side pieces for bracelets or bangles. We take off the cap. That one is 4.5. And the other one is a match. Of course you don't need to make them match. If you want to make them different lengths, you can do. And then that's what it looks like. And I hope you have found this useful, and that if you do go on to make and sell maybe some jewellery from your acrylic poured pendants and things like that, that this is going to come in really handy for you. Thanks for watching, and once again, hope you subscribe. See you soon.